All right, hey everybody, TG here. I wanted to let you guys know that I've got a new mic today, so I'm going to be testing this out. Let me know how it's sounding and if there are any problems out there. But it is middle of September. We're seeing some very bearish activity in the market. I've been expecting a bounce any day now, and it hasn't really been coming to fruition yet. So it is concerning that that is telling us that we're going to be in for some stronger downside moves coming in the future. So we're going to be diving into this. If you guys need to know more information about me, over here at profitpilot.com, profit-pilot.com is where you can find more information. And today, special, we've got some good news out here, some different news. We are now on stockcharts.com. So if you guys want to come check it out, the Moxie indicator is now on something other than Thinkorswim. Over here at stockcharts.com, you can go scroll through it, check everything out, read up about it. I know we've had a lot of conversation about trying to get the indicator on TradingView, but they have not been very helpful to us. They haven't really been wanting to work with us. StockCharts.com has been a great partner. The guys over there, the team, really, really wonderful. And I'm going to be start doing a weekly show on their program, on their website every Friday. So kind of like a weekly review every Friday. And looking forward to that. So if you guys are interested in getting the Moxie indicator on stockcharts.com, you got it now. And for those of you who already have Moxie through Simpler Trading on Thinkorswim, we are offering a $200 coupon to the Simpler Trading store. So we've got you covered there to give you some deals and some discounts. And just ask our customer support team if you guys have any other questions about stockcharts.com or the ACP plugin, anything else like that. So just letting you guys know that we've expanded to where the Moxie indicator is. And so with that, I could show you a little bit of how it looks. Pretty much it's the same thing as what we had on Thinkorswim. I mean, that's the good thing, is that the Moxie indicator was able to be built and translated over to stockcharts.com just fine. And I'm pretty happy about that. I can see move things around. So I've been playing with it for the last few weeks, trying to get familiar with it. And what's nice about this, and I know a lot of you traders out there are interested in too, because do you guys remember, probably a year ago when Thinkorswim was having some really big issues as they kind of got merged with Charles Schwab? We kept experiencing some issues that on some of the bigger volume days, Thinkorswim was just crashing. They were locking up and they were having some issues, and some jokes were going around. It's like, I only test my dev when it goes real time. And so it's nice to have some backup. It's nice to have some secondary charts, and having something that is, maybe browser based like that could be pretty good. And stockcharts.com has been a really good partner for us. So I'll kind of go through this. I've got my chart set up. The colors are a little bit different. I have to dial in kind of some of these things. Like that's the 50, which is more of a magenta colored on Thinkorswim. And then my blues and my reds are maybe a little bit different, but all the same kind of colors are there. I'm still trying to dial it in a little bit and get familiar with their platform, but got to say, I'm pretty happy with it and how it turned out. We had to do some debugging when we were first building this thing. So as I said, the team was really good and helpful with us trying to get us up and running and dialed in. So one thing that I was looking at here initially about kind of this bearish market, we've talked about this before. We've actually been short and then long, and then I'm kind of looking short again on AMC. And I know that we've been looking at some high short interest names recently that have been kind of exploding. We've been looking at ATER and then GDRX and then BBIG and Big Five. We've had some big names like that moving around. The last one I tried was Root. That one didn't work out. And we did make a few bucks off of AMC. Originally, I was short, as I said, because I was looking for price to kind of start to peel off this direction. But then I said, oh, nope, guess not. So let's jump in long. We got in long out here and we got out there. And then it bumped up a little bit more. And I kept watching this thing. And I even told the Moxie subscribers, I said, I'm really pretty surprised and impressed that this thing is going up the way it is, because all the other meme stocks and high short interest stocks that aren't working have gone down, namely BlackBerry, TCAT, GameStop. What they've all done is come down to their daily 50s. And yet AMC keeps pushing up and up and up. And I was like, that seems peculiar. And so I kept looking at this, and based on how I trade and what I'm looking at, I usually see a price cross over the daily 50. And then the problem occurs that there is a gap between price and the daily 50. And price at least needs to come back down to the daily 50 at some point. And so that's, I think, what we're starting to see here is price starting to work its way back down to the daily 50. Part of the reason I say that is we have price over the daily 50, but the Moxie indicator is still below zero, and that's an inverse trampoline move. So I look at that, and then also the not so much a phenomenon, but what I've been seeing recently with a lot of stocks out there is a lot of double tops have been getting sold into, or when price moves up into previous price ranges, they've just been getting sold into, and you can see that AMC is right here at its previous price level, and it looks like it kind of got sold into. So we've had 2 days of down movement on this, which is originally what I was looking at for the reason why I got out, because I got out right about here, and I could see that price was running right into some of this area. It decided to pop up a little bit further, but now it's getting sold into. So it does look to me like this is starting to wear off its upward trajectory. And I'm looking at maybe there's going to be a little bit of a bounce here. And then if you guys want to look into shorting it, I think that there's an opportunity. Now, I can show you also here, I have the weekly and monthly set up on the stockcharts.com setup that I have. And we can also see that, yes, price has bounced off of the weekly 21 a while ago. But again, we're coming up here into that. And a lot of times what I look at is if this is going to be a double top, it's what I call an inverse elf shoe. So, an elf shoe is basically a double bottom. Well, an inverse elf shoe is just a double top. And so if you look at this, we've got the leg, we've got the heel, we've got the arch of the foot, and the arch of the foot typically goes to the 21 EMA. And then we've got the ball of the foot, and then I'd be looking for that elf toe going down this time because of the inverted elf shoe pattern. So basically double top. So I think something like this is interesting. And so if we look at, say, GameStop, and I look here, and part of what I'm thinking is, you know what, this thing hasn't really been able to go. It had one little pop right in through here, and ever since then, it just hasn't been able to get motivating to the upside. And with the market looking the way it is, and our seasonal weakness of September, and maybe these high short interest stocks, they only kind of explode and then they fade. That's kind of what they do. And so the fact that it jumped up here, you can see it has managed to make its way back down to the daily 50, which is what I was looking for AMC. And then it bounced a little bit. But where has it bounced into? I see that it has bounced into a downtrending hourly 50 with the Moxie indicator below zero. So this is what I look at as a potential inverse trampoline move. Price should not be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below zero, which is also what's occurring here on the daily chart. Price is over the daily 50 with the Moxie indicator below zero. So I'm seeing two inverse trampoline moves setting up on the daily and hourly time frame. And more so, what I really like is if you're going to be looking for a short, is price running up into a downtrending moving average. And usually that only exists for a certain amount of time, and then it starts to roll over. So that if we take that and we look over here on the weekly time frame, I've been watching this. Okay, so price did bounce off of the monthly 10, but it's kind of in no man's land on the weekly chart. It just kind of came down someplace, bounced a little bit. And while I would normally say that this looks fairly good, we've kind of got that 8 starting to expand over the 21 on the weekly chart. We saw that price did hold the weekly 21. I've also seen that a lot of the other high flyer stocks that we traded back from November to February and all that, when they stop working, they tend to start to break down and they want to go to the weekly 50 and then further. So do watch this, because if these things can't hold up, then I think that they're going to continue to break down because, well, it's kind of the David versus Goliath situation, and Goliath has more money than we little Davids do. And I think that we might have had our fun time with those short squeezes, and they've given enough time and enough ammunition that they've been probably able to ride this stuff out. And if they start to break down, I think that they will start to overpower the Davids, who, the Reddit crowd, who were trying to, short squeeze these things up. So just be careful and watch out that if this thing starts to break lower, might break off of the weekly 21 and start heading to the weekly 50 and break off of the monthly 10, watch out below. So just kind of putting it out there, making sure that anybody who's in these kind of, meme stocks, high short interest stocks, sees what might be going on with them. if we look at ATER, this is a good one that we traded, and this is really indicative of what happens with them. Is they will shoot up like this, but as soon as they're done, they're toast. They fall right back down, and that's the game that we play when it comes to the high short interest stuff. So do be careful out there. Let's see. So PayPal for first standard. So PYPL. I was kind of looking at this one earlier too. I was talking about this. I had to do a session in our options room on Simpler Trading. A lot of names going out there. And my biggest concern was that I saw that price was kind of running into basically the daily 50. Um, I see that as differently than here, where price was kind of over the daily 50. It took a little bit of bounce there and then failed. And even here, where price was over the daily 50. This looks a little different. This looks like price came up into the underside of kind of an arcing daily 50, and it looks concerning. The only thing I can be looking at over here on the hourly chart is if price can hold the hourly 200. Now, it looks like it could be okay right now. I'm hesitant about that. I'm not so sure that's going to work. And so what you need to be watching out for is if price is going to hold the hourly 200 for a while, but what happens if the hourly 50 comes along and knocks it down like that off of the hourly 200? That's what you need to be prepared for, is if the long side doesn't work, be prepared for either getting out, or if you want to go short, then something like that. And so that's kind of what I'm seeing there on PayPal. Let me show you on the weekly time frame. And this was I was seeing earlier is a potential inverse elf shoe. So here's the leg, here's the heel, here's the arch of the foot, there's the ball of the foot, and possibly if we're going to get that inverted elf toe, we're going to see price come back down. So we look at this and say, hey, you remember that thing I was talking about AMC about double tops getting sold into? Well, right there, it's coming right into its previous high, even if you go further. And if it can't get through it, then it looks like it might want to go down for a little bit. So do be careful about that. All right, so I've got a couple names that I wanted to show as well. Dash. So I'm looking at this one as well because based on recent experience with what's happening out there in the market, the market just teaches us what it wants us to know. A lot of double tops have been getting sold into. So now Dash has had a pretty good move recently, but look where it is. Right at a previous all-time high. So you need to be aware of something like this if you're trading this and just say, okay, it could go through it. It could keep going higher, but what if it doesn't? You need to make sure that you protect yourself and take that into account. So let me kind of pull this back a little bit. And you can see here that right as it got to the high, it also got to that third ATR on the daily chart, and that there was a bit of a gap here between price and the hourly 50, and now it's back at the hourly 50, which is usually pretty good, but we need to be careful. What if price doesn't really hold that hourly 50? So I could see maybe price coming into the hourly 50 trying to move up a little bit, but what if it comes up here and then starts to roll over again? So kind of a double top within a double top. Paul, you say the screen is frozen. Anybody else getting a frozen screen? So let me know in the comments if this thing's still working out. Otherwise, I'll see what I can do to adjust it. But do watch out for that. We'll see if there's some support on Dash at the hourly 50. And then beyond that, careful with that double top over here from kind of near one of its IPO days. All right, good. Glad that's working out for you. All right, then AMD is another one I've been watching out for. And you can see here, kind of same thing, double top, right? See how it bounced off of its daily 21 up into that double top range. And now I would view this as inverse trampoline move. What you can see here is that price was over the hourly 50, but notice that the Moxie indicator was below 0 that whole time. So I had some people asking me and talking to me about it right through here, and I was like, yeah, I see what's going on. I'm a little concerned. Give it some time. I'm not so sure this is going to work out because of that inverse trampoline move. And sure enough, that was the case. Price should not be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below 0. And so now what we're possibly looking at as well, we've got a double bottom, we've got positive divergence, and we do have price at the daily 50. So I am looking at that as possible support, but we do need to keep in mind that it's just a moving average. It may not actually work. So keep watching to see if price is going to keep getting pushed down by the hourly 50 and if price is going to fall below the daily 50. That's personally, if I were in this, that would be my line in the sand, is if this double bottom does not hold, got to get out. Because that's the whole point of a double bottom, is it's advertising to the rest of us traders to say, hey, there's a battle going on right over here, looking left to figure out, is price going to be supported or is it not going to be supported? And that's where you need to figure out is, well, if it's not going to be supported, then it goes down. And if you're long and that's a concern of yours, then yeah, you need to be able to get out on something like that. All right, let's see. You guys are asking about Lyft. I'm not so sure that there's much going on with Lyft. Andrew, maybe which direction are you looking? Because what I'm seeing here, again, remember, kind of a weak market out there. And so careful about looking to the upward direction. A lot of things that I was trading just kind of fell apart. And what I'd be careful about is looking at these and seeing that they're bounces. So with Lyft, there was a double bottom. We do see some positive divergence. But my concern is that price is running right into the underside of a daily 50, and the Moxie indicator is still below zero despite the divergence. And so I'm looking at that and saying, that's a bit of a concern. The hourly can be a bit mixed. So I do see what you're seeing. The 50 is crossing over the 200. And we got like basically just a bit of a trampoline move here as price kind of dipped below the hourly 50 with the Moxie indicator above zero. Very, very true. But I really keep my eyes on that daily chart, because even though the hourly looks good, it's going to be the daily that's going to be telling us the real strength of this. The only setups that I would have seen, let me kind of zoom in on this one, because the only setup that I would have seen, that's my fault, I'm pushing the wrong buttons over here. All right, the only setups I would have seen were kind of been through here, like on the daily chart. Here's the leg, here's the heel, here's the arch of the foot, there's the ball of the foot, and then there's your elf toe. And what you could see was that started right here with the Moxie price trigger on the hourly chart and a trampoline move. Remember, a trampoline move is when price is below the 50, but the Moxie indicator is above zero. That's what we were getting right there as a trampoline move, and then you get your little bit of a move up. So I'd be looking at that as there was basically a gap between price and the daily 50, and now that it's moved there, I'd really be watching out for that daily 50 as possible resistance. So keep that in mind. All right, so NVIDIA puts, huh? Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying, but I would also be careful about, I always try and tell people this, because trying to short a rather strong stock, I know that they've got room to fall when they're high like that, but they're also high for a reason. They've got a lot of strength, and they've got a lot of people who are interested in them. And I'd just be careful about trying to short a pretty high, strong stock that really all you're trying to do is kind of catch a pullback. You're trying to make money on a pullback, and sometimes that doesn't work very well. Like you could be right for a little while, but then you're wrong, and that's what you need to be careful about. Is because ultimately these things generally want to keep going up. A body in motion tends to stay in motion, and so being correct on the short side, so basically on a pullback, is shortly lived. And I see what you're seeing here, price underneath the hourly 50 with the Moxie indicator below zero. It's definitely possible, but you have some tree branches below you as possible support. You have the hourly 200 down here as possible support. You have the daily 21 as possible support for now. Okay, it might break the daily 21, but then if it does, then you've got all of this previous price area as possible support. So it's a little bit challenging to short something that is so high. If you want to short something, try and find something that's already kind of moving in the downward direction, like let's just say Fitch. It's kind of looking around at some names like this. So Fitch, what is it doing? It's clearly moving down. And what I'd be looking at is, here's a double bottom. And yeah, I want to know if this thing's going to bounce from the double bottom. But if it doesn't, then it'll break lower and there could be a move to the downside. And try to make things work easier for you, you've already got the 8 below the 21. So you've already got that moving average working for you to the downside. You've already got the daily 50 angled down. You've already got the Moxie indicator just hanging out below zero. And on the hourly chart, you've already got price running into a downtrending hourly 200. And then most recently, you have price just running right into the underside of a downtrending hourly 50. So if you want to short something, I think you should go after something like this that is already kind of going your direction, as opposed to trying to squeeze out a short-term pullback on a rather strong stock. So just try to make the trend work for you, basically. Gosh, Visa, I don't know if there's much to do here. Um, I'd be hesitant to if you're trying to short it, I'd be hesitant to short it here, mostly because it's coming into that support at the daily 200. Maybe you could go long, but it also seems as though if you're going to go long, that's about all you're going to get because that daily 50 is starting to roll over. And so maybe you can catch a little bit of the upside, but you're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place because you're going to ping pong, I would imagine, between the 200 and the 50. And so whatever kind of distance is in between there is maybe what you can try and make money off of. Yeah, so I mean, clearly this thing has been moving. I don't know if you guys can see Lewis here, the cat. There you go. Anyway, it's been a few days since I've seen him because we're out at my wife's family cabin. So he's saying hi. Anyway, yeah, this thing has pretty much been moving down. So I would say that if you're trying to short it, you're kind of on the tail end. And I think the best thing you can try to do is catch a bounce, but just be careful with the bounce because you've got some moving averages overhead that are not working in your favor. So I do think that there are probably better things to choose from out there. Some of the other ones that I'm looking at, let's talk about Bitcoin for a second, because Bitcoin is right at a decision point. And if we look at the monthly and the weekly, and these are some of the things that I've been having to examine. And one good thing to kind of look at is Fubo. And I'll take a look at that one next so that we can compare Bitcoin to Fubo just based on charts. I know they have nothing related to each other, so just based on charts. Initially, I was looking at price here holding the monthly 10, and that should be bullish. That should be good, right? But the other thing that I was seeing was that just like what I was talking about before, getting sold into at their previous highs or previous price areas. Look at Bitcoin right here. All this congestion here on the weekly and monthly time frame, and look where price went to. It went exactly to the bottom of it, and then got halted. Basically couldn't make any more forward progress. Now the other side that would look bullish at this is that price is coming into the weekly 50 with the weekly 8 over the 21. Looks bullish, and I will say that, but we need to be prepared that what this might be doing is it could just be chopping sideways a little bit until it actually wants to go lower a bit. Now let me show you Fubo just so you can kind of see this chart situation that I'm talking about. And you see here how Fubo, same thing, kind of came down, bounced, and GBTC, Bitcoin, is right here in the same kind of situation that Fubo is. And then what you can see is it came down, and it's basically kind of just been hovering nowhere for a while. And that's what we need to be prepared for, that it might do that. Let me see if, is it DDD? Yeah, so DDD, 3D systems, kind of seeing like the same thing. Kind of here, and then it came down, and it's really kind of just been going nowhere for a while. So we need to be prepared that Bitcoin may not really get going anywhere too fast. So if we look down here on the daily time frame and the hourly time frame, we are seeing a bit of a mixed bag. Here is price pulling back into the daily 50 with the Moxie indicator above zero. Generally speaking, I would like to say that price should bounce off that daily 50, but the concern is we have price trying to deal with a downtrending hourly 50 and the Moxie indicators below zero. So this is a bit of a push-pull situation. This is why I'm saying that Bitcoin may not really go anywhere anytime too soon. It might kind of trade around sideways and chop around for a while just because of these conflicting issues. So the hourly chart is telling me this is an inverse trampoline move. Price should not be over the 50 if the Moxie indicator is below zero. Just like here, price should not have been over the 50 with the Moxie indicator below zero. And you can see that we're running into a downtrending hourly 50. Like they don't work like that. And so I'd be careful about kind of thinking Bitcoin might be strong. Let's look at Fubo so I can show you. So like with Fubo, you can see here, price did cross over the daily 50, pulled back into the daily 50, and then it kind of went nowhere. And now I did try and take a long in through here. It's not, we're basically, I think we got in something around there. So we're sucking wind a little bit on this one because that was a surprise move, a strong move down over the last couple days. And this is what I'm talking about. Just the experience that I'm seeing in the market is telling me that things are not very strong out there. So just be prepared that Bitcoin might start kind of doing something like this, where it kind of just chops sideways for a while. And so if you're kind of really gearing up to go long on Bitcoin, just kind of caution yourself about that, because this kind of push pull that I'm seeing with it. All right, so we're going to be wrapping up there. As I said, it's September, seasonally weak. The market. Let me show you the S&P real quick, because this is kind of what we're looking at. I was expecting a bounce right here at the daily 21. When that didn't happen, I was like, uh-oh, this thing looks like it's going to be weaker than expected. The other thing that we're seeing is here is price at the daily 50, and we're really still not catching much strength nor much of a bounce. And so this is a real problem, that if and when we do get a bounce, we're going to be bouncing right up into a pretty sharply down angled hourly 50 with the Moxie indicator significantly below zero. So any kind of bounce, I think, is going to put us into a pretty precarious position, and probably something that should be shorted. So if you guys like to short, and if you're looking that direction, then a bounce on the S&P is probably going to be shorted. And I think that is the issue that we're seeing out there, is that there's a lot of weakness out there. And be careful with that, because we bounce, 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 bounce. This one is not really bouncing yet. So be careful out there. As I said, guys, the news today is that we've got the Moxie indicator on stockcharts.com. We've posted a couple links in the chat here. So if you guys are interested, come over and check it out. It's pretty cool that we've got it over here. So yeah, stockcharts.com. They've been a great partner for us. And if you guys have any other questions about me or who I am, come over here at profitpilot.com. And as always, we'll see you guys next week. Thanks for tuning in, and be careful out there. The market's kind of not looking so fun.